Yeah,
Bigfoot does not exist. You heard it from created right here first. Let me tell you about this guy.
I'll tell you about this fucker right here.
Yeah. I said, well, it was there. A government conspiracy took it down.
Government conspiracy. Pray to God about it.
Pray to God about it. The ghost took it.
The ghost took our intro. Sorry, everyone. Whenever this comes out,
yeah,
the ghost took our intro from episode 18.
Was it 18?
Sure, we'll go with that.
Sure, we'll go with that. I don't know.
Whatever episode it was, the ghost took it.
So speaking of spooks
and goblins.
What did he say?
Well, not the middle one.
No. Is just what we would call like the unborn children in my sock?
No. So if you want to know what that is, it's actually the N-word version for a Vietnamese person.
Oh, so you're saying I shouldn't say that?
Correct.
Oh, so I had to bleep every time I said it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh. They're gonna be very confused.
Yeah.
All right, good to know. I'll stop saying it.
That's why I was like, yeah, the other two, but not the middle one.
Oh, all right. Well,
it'd be good to know the words that you're actually saying.
Well, whoopsies.
Yeah,
good thing Mike gave me the G word pass.
Well, I know you, right? I know the spirit in which it was thrown. And, well, at least I thought I did. Turns out it was just
I just didn't know what the word was. Yeah. All right, so you want to get to know me, not in that way, apparently.
Right, yeah. So, let's start with ghosts. You believe in ghosts?
I think so. Yeah.
I think I believe in something.
Yeah, I think so. I'm like, I believe in them, but I sometimes when I like watch the documentaries and like the shows people make, it makes me want to not believe in them because I see some of this stuff and I'm like, I don't know. That ghost like knocked over my entire television that was hanging on my wall or something like that. I don't know. But it's
so the ghost that knocks over your TV, those are the kinds that you don't think are real.
Yeah,
So what are the ones that you think are real?
I feel like people maybe give like the ghost thing a little like, I don't know, too much credit. I don't know if they like kill people, I guess is what I'm saying. But like the people hearing like maybe like just a cup being knocked over in the middle of the night, or maybe some like there's lots of people that report like their stools or chairs move or things like that. Or maybe some of the things where they're like their lights like flicker and shit. I could see how there would be things that maybe like that we can't explain that are there. I'm also a believer and a proponent of like the multi-universe theory, and there's a lot of people that theorize that the universes can like interact with each other.
So like the string theory.
Yeah. So to me that's makes sense in my head, like probable, like It could be a thing. So maybe it's not like a supernatural, like, oh, I'm a ghost cat and I'm gonna fuck with you by knocking over your glass off the table. But maybe it's the two things interacting. I don't know. I believe that there's things that we can't explain that do happen.
So how about ghosts? How about like possession? You ever seen the movie Exorcist?
I've never seen the movie, but I don't like scary movies. They really fuck with me. And it's not so much when I'm watching the movie, but they give me really bad nightmares that are very believable. And so it screws up my sleep.
So don't watch The Exorcist. Do you know the story of it?
Yeah, I get the idea.
Do you believe in that?
I don't know. I think that people do things that like they can't explain why they do them. I don't know if I necessarily believe that ghosts possess people or like a spirit possess
the
people.
is basically it's demon possession. So
Mhm.
do you believe in demons?
Yeah.
All right. So I guess the question then is, if you believe in demons, do you think demons can take over a person?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know if I feel like they do. I also feel like people use it as like a cop out for I was like huffing bath salts and I ate someone's face and like, oh, he was possessed, and it's like, well, or he's just stupid. I don't know. I'm not sure. I've never had any personal experience with it. I can say that for sure.
Right. How about poltergeist?
So like, isn't that like serious demons? I don't know.
No, poltergeist would be like a spirit, a mischievous spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're talking about the chairs being rearranged and that kind of stuff, things end up, like you said, a pair of scissors down here, and then you leave, you come back, and they're not there, and they can end up in the garden or something.
Right.
That'd be more of a poltergeist type of thing.
Yeah, I feel like that to me, that's more realistic because I would say if, there is an afterlife and I can come back and mess with people on Earth, I'm 100% doing that. I'm 100% taking part.
Do you think like ghosts are unresolved deaths, and it's the people not realizing they're dead, like is often presented?
I think that there is a potential for somebody to have such a strong connection to something, or maybe like they were. There's a lot of stories of people being like tortured to death in certain places, and then there's that aura or like embodiment of their spirit that's upset that could linger, and to me that would make some sort of sense. Like you're so emotionally and mentally, like you get so attached to something, or something happens to you that's so dramatic that it makes, I guess, physical like world changes. I could see that as a thing, I guess.
So you think that houses can actually be haunted and that type of thing?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think any of the the modern thrown up in a week houses are haunted. I feel like it's always the built in 1760 houses that are haunted.
All right. And so I know you at least used to believe in a Christian deity, believe in God or whatever, based on the stories you told about being pulled over for breaking the law on their way to church.
Right.
Which, biblically sound stuff right there.
Right.
So I'm curious because, like, notoriously, Gen Z is more spiritual and less confined to rules and tradition.
Yeah, and I'm in that same boat. So I still have my beliefs in a God or a higher power, if you will. But to me, it's become less confined to just this Christian like God, or their representation of him, and all of the rules and restrictions that come with that. But I don't think I necessarily believe that everything happens at random, and that I feel like there's just, for me in my personal life, there's a lot of coincidences that if things didn't line up a certain way, I wouldn't be where I am. And and maybe it's just random chance, but I don't feel like things line up like that all the time in my life, where it's super random and like out of order and it doesn't make any sense. I feel like there's a number of accounts that I have where it's like, no, that makes sense, like why that happened and how it got me here. Just for an example, like I would not be in the job that I'm in had my friend not took his own life. There was no connection to that job. I mean, I knew him, but I didn't know. I knew his family a little bit, but his family was looking to put him in that sort of position. So I never would have made that connection without that happening. So I wouldn't, and ultimately not having that job I wouldn't be right here, right? So it seems some things are not as random as.
So the way I look at that, and I just don't want other people to misunderstand. I don't think you're saying God had this guy kill himself so that you can.
No, that's not what I mean.
So it's more along the lines of this happened and there was an intervention to help.
Yeah. So I don't mean like, oh yeah, God was like, that one's gotta go. So, sorry, Kevin's family, but it was also Brandon could get a job. No, I don't think that at all. I guess what I mean is like, I think people still have their own choices. They make the decision,
so
whatever.
You believe in free will.
But yeah, but that after those things happen, that things can change at a and they're not so random.
Right.
I guess is the right way to put it.
Okay.
Or is the right way about how I feel about it.
So I was reading some articles,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I saw an article where boomers are kind of going away from, I don't want to say like religion, but from Christianity, and Gen Zers are moving towards it, just not in a traditional manner.
Right. Got the sniffles over there?
I do. It's allergy season around
You don't
here.
have to cry. It's okay.
No.
Thought we were the crybabies.
So your friends and that kind of stuff, is that something that you see where there's more people believing in a higher being but not?
No.
So what do you see?
That's not what I see at all. I actually see the opposite. I see, I wouldn't say all of them are like atheists per se. I say, or maybe, I don't know. I guess maybe now that I think about it, maybe it is more like what you're describing. I see more agnostic, like
There's something out there.
there's something out there, but I don't know what it is. Or I don't necessarily know if I believe there's something out there, but I don't claim to know everything. So the possibility is there. Something more along those lines, and not necessarily completely reject it. It's more like philosophical and intellectual thought of like, well, we're just this dot in this giant place. So I don't claim to know, basically, is usually what I get from most people my age now.
What has, in your mind, what's replaced religion in your generation?
Interesting. Good question. Replaced it in the same way. So like this is something they worship or something that they fall back on. Times are hard. Things like that.
So I guess worship, but in a non-traditional sense. All right. So with religion, it's something that you go to. You know, there's faith, and then there's comfort in religion or in your belief. Not necessarily your dogma type of thing, but
Right.
in the relationship type of thing. So I think when that is removed, something takes its spot.
I think, and we've touched on this quite a bit before, especially in the early. You guys are familiar with the podcast lore.
We've got lore now.
The early podcast episodes. I think that they are more so turning to like mental health professionals. That's been a really big push among especially the Gen Z generation. So I think they turn more towards that than they do religion, more towards going to therapy and things like that over religion.
That's kind of concerning to me. I think from what I see, let me be a dick about it.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I see self-worship.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what this whole social media, internet famous thing is really about. Self-worship and getting other people to worship you so that you can become your own deity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the other part of that is using government and government rules as the dogma part of religion.
So do you feel like it's more self-worship than that, there's always been? Because I feel like there has always been that self-worship. There was, I won't say all churches, but there's a ton of them where a lot of the church leadership uses their
God
authority.
wants me to have a helicopter.
Yeah, right. Things like that.
Yes, I do think there's more now than before. I also think things are socially worse now than they were before.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have, traditional and structural breakdowns that have not been replaced with something else.
Mm-hmm.
And people are still trying to figure out what these other things are. I was just I was just reading this story about these two kids who stole a car, saw a guy on a bicycle, brought up their iPhone because they're Apple cultists, and recorded running into this bicyclist to watch the body flip over the car, filmed it, and to watch the body roll, and they were laughing about it.
Well, that just sounds like serial killers.
It's just teenagers.
Psychotic people.
It's just teenagers who don't. They're definitely missing empathy,
Mm-hmm.
Social norms,
Mm-hmm.
All these types of things. And I just kind of feel that's much more prevalent now. And I think it's because of the social media aspect of it.
Yeah.
Magnifies it. There's more population now too from back then, but I think most of the crime in older generations is for personal gain, gain some money, things of that nature, rob a bank, murder somebody and take their stuff, steal horses so you could sell them. There's a purpose behind it. Now
Right.
I feel like there's a lack of purpose. In Normandy Park in Washington State, these people were robbing the store and they started beating up this woman. The woman is saying, "I'm not going to stop you, take what you want," but they kept beating her.
Yeah.
And they're laughing about it. And it's like they were just doing it for fun.
Yeah. I think that you kind of hit it earlier though. I don't think that I agree with you in that sense. And I don't think it's that people don't have a purpose. I think the purpose is exactly what you said. People do those things because the internet and social media tend to react to things that are really bad more than they react to things that are really good.
Right.
And
That's why we only have 43 viewers, subscribers, because it's really good.
Right, because it's really good. It's all good stuff. And so if you can get attention, like you said, through social media by recording and doing these things, then people will watch it and now you're, TikTok famous or whatever, right? Which I think is why you have, Gen Z or people or whatever. You have kids my age or the young, like slightly younger Gen Z doing the things like oh, let me just walk in all these stores and lick this ice cream and put it back. And just shit like that has no purpose, but, it gets views and it gets clicks and things like that. So I would agree with you. Like, I think that people just now, instead of doing stuff for money, they do it for money and fame, but in a different way.
Right. And that's why I think of it as they're trying to make themselves God.
Right.
Because followers are worshipers type of mentality. I'm not telling you to following us as you make us, you worshiping us, but
we will be your God.
But that's kind of how like a narcissist would think. Or I don't know, I'm not a therapist, so I'm sure a sociopath would think that.
Yeah, I think when you're told from the time that you're born that no matter what you do, you're special, you're good, you're always a winner, that everything you feel is okay, and you're allowed to react however you want on those feelings. I think that creates people like you're talking about, where it's just like, I don't need a reason to feel the way I feel, and I don't need the reason to react to that feeling, so I'm just gonna do it. And
we quit telling people to get over themselves is what I'm hearing.
Right.
Get over yourself.
Yeah, that the world's not yours and you don't own it. And we quit creating an outlet for competition that allows people to win something with a
shoe.
It's fucking disgusting. we quit.
Edit that out.
Yeah. Oh, good. The Asian guy brought back COVID.
Hey, French chair.
I don't even remember what the hell I was saying. We stopped creating that outlet for competition that requires people to do something meaningful and compete for it. And so now they have to find some sort of purpose or meaning in their fame and social media.
So we eliminated the possibility of people learning how to be resilient.
I think so.
That's crap.
Yep.
When you have kids, you need to tell them they're pieces of shit. It's time to step up. Well, yeah, you can't. I don't care that you're 3. There's lines, and you need color inside of them.
Well, I don't. This has nothing to do with our topic now. We're just.
Oh yeah, we're way off topic.
That's all right.
What's new? Huh?
Yeah, what's new? Exactly. Yeah. Fuck your generation. No, but I think, yeah. I mean, I don't want my kids to grow up thinking that like, oh, as long as you run in the race, like you're still a winner. I do want my kids to feel like if they try hard, that is a good thing and that's rewarding. But I also don't want there's got to be a meaning for trying hard. If you just try hard just to try hard, there's no satisfaction from that most of the time.
So bring it back to religion. When you have kids, provided you have kids, how are you going to teach them meaning? Are you going to start going to church again? Are you going to do home stuff? Or are you just going to go, just kind of figure it out, believe what you believe?
No, I think that there is meaning in you need to figure this out for yourself, because there is something to be said about somebody figuring something out on their own, and having something that is theirs. Like, I own this thought. It wasn't just a thought that was placed into me. But I think initially, as you're raising them, right, you still raise them with your values. I don't think that I'm going to start going back to church and being like, this is the God you believe in. But I think that you can find other meaning in, being a good, upstanding citizen, doing these things that are in essence good, that most people can agree are, good things to do and good things to strive for. So.
All right. I'm not sure that answered the question though.
I don't know if it did either. And maybe I don't fully know, right? I haven't thought about it much. I don't want to put them in like, nope, you're going to church and this is what you have to believe. But I also don't want them to walk around with like, well, what's the purpose in life? What do I do with myself? I think there's an age where I think that kind of questioning is good, but probably not initially as like a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be having existential dread.
Yeah. So where do you get your values?
I think my value basis kind of comes from along that line of like, do to others what you want done to you, right? And, I think that's part of it. I think a lot of my values were instilled in me by my mom. She always worked hard. She always made sure that we were taken care of. She didn't just quit when things got hard. She cried in silence when things were difficult, but she also didn't. She hid the pain that she would feel from us, but didn't hide what would cause that pain. So like I would talk about bills and finances and things like that like fairly early on with her. So like that wasn't necessarily hidden, but the pain of I don't know how I'm going to make these ends meet this month and things like that. She always showed that she didn't quit, but never showed the actual struggle behind it.
Is she the one that took you to church?
No.
How did you end up in church?
So we had just moved from the Panhandle of Florida to Central Florida. My mom got a new job in that area, and we moved away from where all of our family was at the time. So it was the first time that me, my mom, and my sister actually went away on our own. And when we got there and moved there, we moved into this neighborhood, and my mom, the thing that she hadn't figured out yet was we had school, and then after school, there was like a 2 to 3 hour gap of when she would be home from her job and when we would get home. But we weren't old enough at the time to necessarily watch ourselves. Or she didn't feel comfortable us just being, by ourselves at the time. So there was a family that also had a few kids that lived across the street from us. And not long after we moved in, we met them, and she asked if they would, because the mom was a stay-at-home mom. So she asked if she would be willing to watch us for those couple hours after school, and they went to church. So we started going with them, me and my sister, every now and again. And then eventually my mom started going, and we were involved with that church from when I was in 4th grade to the time I left for college.
Were they the same age as your mom or older?
Similar ages. A little bit older, but not much older.
Okay.
Same generation. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about your grandmother? Churchgoer?
Not really. My grandfather was, and he was Catholic, but my grandmother, not really.
All right. Interesting. Typically, it's the women going to church, and men are like, church.
Yeah.
Especially during football season.
Yeah. Football Sunday.
Yeah, football Sunday. Then the church, the pastors always like to go, do you prefer football over Jesus?
Yeah, right.
Like, that's, Jesus wants me to be happy, so I'm watching football.
Even though when they're in the pulpit, everybody's singing, they're watching the game on their phone. Yeah. Yep.
So how did you just move and then just quit going to church, or what happened there?
No. So there were some things that I started to notice as I got older about our church that was like, this is kind of cultish. And just things that I didn't like. I won't go into a lot of detail because there's probably people that I know that could actually see this, but there was one situation where a person was being physically harmed. I'll just put it that way. And the entirety of the church believed the person that was the church goer and not this person who was physically abused. And that was kind of the line in the sand for me. I was like, this is not okay. It's kind of one of those situations of like the pastor's diddling the schoolboy.
Yeah,
and
so
it just, that situation is what got me. It was like, we're okay with this because they are a devoted person to this church. And so that was when I kind of started stepping away. And then there were some more things, not exactly the same, but similar. And I just was like, yeah, I'm good. I don't think I'm going to go here anymore.
Okay.
So I said I'm leaving for school and, I'll be back in a few years, and just never came back.
You lied your way out of church. Lied your way out of church.
Yep. Lied my way out of church. And then I tried to go back a couple of times to different churches, and they were better. But I just never got back into it like I did before. I'm assuming mentally there was just something. Each time I would go back, that's kind of the thing that would come up in my head, and it was like, nope, who's being molested here? But because it usually, statistically, people that get abused like that are by friends or family. It's not random people.
Yeah.
And so you have a large group of people like that, and it happens. And
it's the people who go to church come from the world into a building. And so whatever you find in the world, you're also going to find in church.
Right.
And then there's also what my friend Charlie likes to call dadgum Sunday Christians, where they're a Christian on Sunday when they're at church, and afterwards, it's back to chewing, drinking, cussing.
Yeah.
Right. So what people need to realize, when the people who go to church need to strive for Christ-likeness for a Christian church. And then the people who don't go to church need to understand these are just people striving, not people there.
Yeah. And for me, like, I was never in a place where I was like, oh, these people should all be better than everybody else. It's the hiding it, and like well, now we all know about it. That person should be in jail. And we're just like, well, but he comes to this church a lot and gives a decent amount of money. And it's like, well, hang on. There's certain things that are like, all right, that might be a little too far.
There's different things that have bothered me about the churches I've gone to. And it got to the point where I would go to a church and I'd look around to see the expressions on people's faces, right? Because you go out there and then people are just stone-faced. And it's like, this is not a happy group of people.
Yeah.
All right. So this is a dead church.
Right.
Right. And then there's other things. One of the things that bothered me about churches is they lifted women up and put down men. And it's like, I like to go to the Mother's Day service and listen to how they talk about how wonderful the moms are and how much they do for the household and how much they need to be appreciated. Then the next month you go for Father's Day service and you get the lecture about men are important, you need to do better, you need to be doing these things. It's like, really? Time for my annual Father's Day lecture from church.
Yep. It's similar with the teens, because in the women's teen church, when they break them off and talk about it, it's like, you're beautiful, you're amazing, you're going to be a good mother one day. And the guys, it's like, you're going to hell because you watched porn. How sick of you. How could you ever do something like that? I'm masturbating to a kid in the corner, but it doesn't matter. You're a sinner. And it's like, damn.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's the Bible talks about men being the leaders and the church trying to get more men in because more women go to church than men, and they're trying to figure out why are men no longer going to church. Or maybe because at church you're talking about love and affection and all these soft things that don't grab the male's mind. And then when you are talking about the harsher things, like man is like, hey, let's go conquer a mountain, let's go out in the wilderness, right? When you do talk in that language, it's usually demeaning to the men. They're the problem, that kind of stuff. And yeah, men are not going to go to that. They've lost interest. And you're just sucking up to the women, telling them they're awesome, telling the men they're bad, then scolding them for not going to church anymore. It's like, this is an option.
Right.
Why would I go to that?
Right.
So, but it's interesting. You don't subscribe to more Gen Zers going to church like I think it was Christian Today article says.
Very believable source.
Right. And then the New York Times had, I think, the opposite take on it. And quite honestly, I don't believe it either source.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think honestly, I think a lot of it still just comes down to how the parents like raise them and what they bring them up in. Most people, there's a very like fine line, right? You have people that are brought up in church and they either stay in church or stay at least with their beliefs. And then you have people that are brought up in church that are like, I never want anything to do with that again. It was horrible. Drugs and alcohol are my church of choice.
I feel like when I was younger, and I think the people around me, we were looking for things that were greater than ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Gen Z or Gen Alpha, which is real young right now, I don't know if they are looking for anything greater than themselves.
I think it shifted to a different kind of greater. I think that's why we talk more and more about like super intelligence and aliens and things like that. I think it's like it's a more physical greater than it is the spiritual greater. Or you know, they admire these people that are in tech and things like that with that push.
You believe in aliens?
I think I believe in I think that, so my opinion is more, I guess, scientific. There's infinite number of planets, so like
are you agnostic about aliens?
No, like there's an infinite number of planets, so the likelihood that there's not something there is probably pretty small. I don't know if I believe in like aliens have visited us and like they're coming and they're so intelligent and they're observing us. I don't know if I believe in that or not.
Okay.
But
some people argue that the aliens are actually like Nephilim or angels that's in the Bible and that look very different than humans.
Right.
Some reads where along the lines they turned like angels into these beautiful human-like creatures. But
right.
It didn't really.
No, I never said that.
Right.
People. I don't know if you've seen those pictures where people like depict how they depict them in the Bible, like these angels, and they are terrifying. They're nothing like this beautiful like person. Yeah.
And so there's some religious scholars who propose that yes, there are aliens, but aliens are actually Nephilim and created from God and part of the angel society, if you will, and that's why they look so different and they have all these different things that they can do. So there's an argument that people like to say, if you believe in aliens, then you can't be a Christian. You don't believe in the Bible. And then there's some Christians that say there's no such thing as aliens because they're not in the Bible. It's like it's not a sci-fi book. So they don't talk specifically about dinosaurs in the Bible either, right? Doesn't mean that they didn't exist. But then if you get into the religious scholars, they argue that good religion does not contradict good science.
Right. Yeah. And that was something that, like, as my beliefs started to change or like evolve, that was one of the things either. Because, people would always have these arguments in church about like, oh, well, the earth can't be millions of years old, right? And they would come up with all of these reasons. And then when I left and started getting into college, and things like that, one of the thoughts, and I remember having this conversation with my mom and my sister at one point, and was like, why can't it just be both? Why can't there be God and the earth is millions of years old? Who gives a shit? Like, what is it? There's no other argument. What does it matter, right? And especially if you're trying to convince somebody that if they don't do these things, they're going to hell, you're landing on your root of the argument being, well, the earth's not millions of years old. Like, it kind of seemed backwards in why you're trying to convince people of these things and why those things couldn't just mesh together. Who cares?
You believe in Bigfoot? Oh, sorry. If you want to finish the thought.
No, I mean, that was my end of my thoughts. I have these very brief moments of slight intellect, so I got to get them out before they disappear.
You believe in Bigfoot?
Do
you believe in big feet?
I believe people have big feet. I think I believe in Bigfoot less than I believe about things like, I don't know if mermaids is a good example, but some sort of like weird sea creature that we haven't discovered, because we've explored very little of our ocean. I don't know how much I believe in Bigfoot. Yeah,
Bigfoot does not exist. You heard it from Brandon right here first.
Yeah, I just the Bigfoot thing gets me like the ghost thing gets me. You have like History Channel, and I don't know when History Channel became like the channel of all things mythological, but you have like the History Channel, and then they've got this guy, and he's like, I have a degree in Bigfoot etymology, and I'm like, huh?
It's just people making shit up and teaching it.
I know. It just, that's the part that gets me, is like, I don't know. It just seems so fake.
I'm not a Bigfoot believer either. Chupacabra.
Isn't that like the same thing?
I don't think it's a Bigfoot.
It's like the Mexican one.
I think it's an animal, right? But it's like
I could believe in more of like a
four-legged creature that is hard to find.
Yeah, than half man, half monkey running around, and he's really big.
Yeah,
yeah,
I agree. Just on the procreation level of it all, right? How long does a Bigfoot live?
Right. It seems to be thousands and thousands of years.
And like dogs, small dogs live much longer than large dogs.
Yeah.
And if we follow along the lines, you would think this Bigfoot would have a shorter lifespan than, say, a human.
Right. And the only things that I know that live, a few hundred years as animals go are like turtles and things like that.
Yeah, reptiles.
And they're big, but they're not that big.
Right.
And they don't expend all this energy either. Like this Bigfoot that's running away from the cameras.
And with all the trees that we've cut down, you think would have been
right. With all the wildfires around here, I think
with all the deer cameras, we would have spotted it for real.
And that's what gets me too about the things of like the ghost thing and like the Bigfoot thing. Any evidence that we have that's caught on video is always like nobody is walking around with an iPhone or Samsung in their pocket. It just is like, who pulled out this 1990s Nokia to start filming? I don't know.
All right. So if Bigfoot existed, it's dead now, died of old age or starvation.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, I'm not convinced that there can be so many good videos of planes hitting 9/11, but we can't possibly catch good footage of Bigfoot running around.
How about the Loch Ness Monster?
I have more belief in that.
Because the body of water.
Right. It's huge, and there's so much of it that we haven't hit. Like, I have more belief in the Loch Ness Monster or maybe like the Megalodon still being a thing or something like that than I do Bigfoot.
Yeah, I mean, have you seen like the giant squids that come up from the deep?
Those things are creepy, and we find new like fish creatures and stuff every single year. So I could. It's more believable to me that we haven't, maybe found it yet.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I think we covered all of our freaking spirit world stuff.
Yeah, spirit world.
We're in the spirit world.
Yep. Before we, sign off and do the whole peace be the journey or whatever the hell you say, go to our X, go to our Instagram. I almost called it Twitter.
What is our X?
Go to our X. It's FKURGeneration. And so is our Twitter. Go to those things. Click the follow, whatever you do on these other.
Follow us on X.
Yeah, follow us on X
and Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Like, subscribe.
Not X the porn site. X the old Twitter.
The future porn site.
right. Follow us on X. Follow us on Instagram. All those other TikTok. We make TikToks. You can see me doing a stupid dance on the toilet.
Oh God! Yeah, you can see him doing that. Can't see me doing that because I'm not
Mike will be in them soon. Go follow, and then also we need to name our mascot that we introduced.
We do need to
last
name
episode.
Our rooster.
Our rooster is worth $14.99, or at least his ass is. So please name him.
Yeah, put it in the comments. Give some suggestions. I think I came up with Charlie originally.
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
Yeah. So. You guys should name him.
I know we've asked him multiple times. He refuses to tell us his name.
Yeah, he refuses to talk for us. But I'm not convinced. I've seen Toy Story. I know what they do when we leave.
And to upset Brandon, I'm going to say this. He has officially identified as a he.
He's wrote notes.
He's wrote notes.
He told us.
He said, if I wasn't a he, I'd be a hen. So it's a rooster.
Right. All right. Thank you, guys.
Peace be the journey.
What he said.